Yes, guys. So I'm back. This lady, I go to the hospital. I go to the ward, and then there is this patient that I could see that she is literally covered from head to toe. Like there is no part of her body or face or neck, her hands, her whole body, her legs in these growth-like substances that I've never ever seen in my life. Actually, at one different occasion in that hospital, I think I had a glimpse of her. They were taking her somewhere and they had covered her with a white sheet. I only looked for a few seconds, and obviously it's a hospital, so I moved on. But I remembered like glimpsing her that time. That was the first time. Now this day, of course, she's on the ward. She's not covered, and everything like growths on her skin everywhere, and obviously. I was curious, and I needed to go to another patient in that section with her, and I decided to I was obviously curious, but at the same time I don't know this condition that she has, so I also don't know if it is contagious. But at the same time I remember looking at her, and you could see that lady, that look in her eye, like she already assumed I would reject her. I would probably be afraid of her or scorn her, because that's the kind of life that she's used to. And I just had like a spirit of compassion for this lady. Like the spirit of God, I can imagine, just really ministered to me in that moment. And I'm thinking, you can imagine, like, it's a human being, but at the same time I don't know what she has or whatever it is. So thank God I didn't want to avoid her. I wanted to be nice. I wanted to make a special effort to be nice to her, because obviously I can imagine that people would reject her. So I think I went to the lady I was sent there for. No, actually, before I went to that lady, I went back to the nursing station. So I asked one of the nurses. I know most of the nurses as well there. Obviously, I work there and I live there too. So I went back to her and I was asking her what happened to this lady. So she explained to me that this lady has a condition called neurofibromatosis. First time ever hearing it, so I had to Google it and everything. And yeah, that's why she's like that. And also that the condition was not contagious, so I cannot catch it from her, or she cannot make me sick by me going to her. So you can imagine that, beautiful memories of the hospital. But anyway, so I ended up, in a way, like in a short time, like I ended up starting to visit her, starting to talk to her and everything. And this lady, her faith in God was like so strong. Like she was more gracious, she was more thankful than many of the patients in the hospital probably would think they're in a worse condition. Or even at the time, my own relatives who were probably ill but not in the hospital. And I was thinking, wow, this lady is just awesome. And she would, and after a while, like whenever I could, I would just like go and talk to her and stuff. Then I met a relative of hers who would always, like, when he can, like, take her to the hospital. I mean, like, come and visit her. She's in the hospital. But the lady, because people did not know that the condition was not contagious, and because of how she looked, she was basically ostracized by most people in that area. And my heart broke when I found out that whenever she's sick, whenever she's ill or anything, she literally has to walk to the hospital. No, the hospital was far away from the area that she lived. Imagine, people don't walk like those distances normally. Like we walk in Jamaica, but that distance is a taxi distance, you know what I mean? And on top of that, imagine how you would feel if you are sick and you have to walk, because none of the taxi drivers or the people passing by in their cars, they would not pick her up because they were afraid of her. And they scorned her and they thought she looked really, really weird. And to be honest, she looks unlike anything I've ever seen, actually. And she's the only person I ever saw like that. And one other lady at a different time with a less severe version of that same condition. So yes. And this lady though was an angel. She was so sweet, she was so loving, and I would just start going to talk to her and stuff like that. So she explained to me that what happened is, as a child she was normal, but then she had one of the stuff, like a little bump or whatever, on her skin. And yeah, one of those little bumps or whatever on her skin, and her grandma or mom took her to the doctor, and the doctor said that she should not, they should not cut it or try to remove the growth or whatever it looked like, because it would make it worse. That's the opinion of the first doctor. And then obviously, imagine if you had one little wart or bump or something that's really bothering you or your mom, and the doctor, I mean, you think, why not remove it? I mean, I think it's natural to think, just cut it off. What is the problem? But that doctor apparently must have really known about the condition. So he told the family that if they cut it off or whatever, remove it, surgically remove it or whatever they need to do, it would cause the condition to spread. Of course, how you will believe that? So I guess it's good to take wise advice, but in Jamaica as well, it's very common to ask for a second opinion when you go to doctors. So yeah, so she went to a second opinion. Now the second opinion doctor thought it was just okay to go ahead and remove the bump or the I don't know what to call it, I'll just say bump, from her, or the growth from her skin, and it was probably on her leg or something. And just as the first doctor said, the whole thing spread to her whole body. Yes, and that's why she ended up, getting to that point. And yeah, so it's everything, that experience we have in life, God knows why, God knows the reason. So basically, I now getting to understand that, what are you complaining about? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that should make you feel like you should not be trying to get rid of any, what do you call it, deformity or any imperfection or whatever you have. But I feel like I was reminded as well of how beautiful and how grateful and how thankful to God someone in that condition can be. And sometimes we have like such a minute problem and we can't go outside because you have a breakout, or you can't smile because you have a breakout, or you're afraid somebody's gonna stare at you. Like, this lady gets much more than stares. So I just got so happy after that, in the sense that I just didn't care. And by God's grace, my issue is clearing up. But it reminds me, like, come on, life is much more than that. Life is much more than being, Instagram model perfect or whatever they call it. Like, you can just be happy no matter what situation you find yourself in. Don't let anybody make you feel like just because things not going right, or you're not at the right size that you want to be, or you're not at the right frame that you want to be, or you're not at the right place in your life, don't allow that kind of thing to stop you from enjoying today. Don't let that stop you from enjoying this moment. Don't let it stop you from enjoying what God has for you, right? Because some people, you can see, it's not even about the situation. Just like how some people say, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you save, or how much you can do with the little that you have. Now this lady, basically, she has no husband, she has no kids, probably just one faithful relative. That this man, again, his stories are different, like a very, very genuine person, loving man who tries his best to help her, and it seems like he's the only person who actually has time or makes time for her. But sometimes when she has to go to the hospital, he has to work or so. And imagine, like, because sometimes they get like whatever, they need to be dressed or whatever by the hospital. So you can just Google neurofibromatosis. I'll put it in the description box, the name, the spelling, and you can just click images and you will have an idea. I've seen cases there, like one of the worst cases, you will see in images like hers is like that. And yeah, so don't allow life and simple things to stop you from loving. Don't allow a mistake or failed opportunity